It's rock and roll.
Welcome to the Look It's Rock and Roll podcast. I'm your host, Julian, and you can tell by these two characters that we're doing another W.A.S.P chat today. It's been a while, so let's see. Last episode, we talked about Still Not Black Enough. That means this time it's going to be Kill.Fuck.Die. And to the censors, you know.
What do you get out of life?
Yeah, there we go. This one's a little bit of a shocker for me personally. 1997, where was I? I was still in Scotland. So I remember going down to my favorite record store and seeing this and buying it and hating it immediately because it was a digipack. And I chopped up my digipack and put it into a jewel case, and there it remains to this day. Bill, we spoke to you in the last episode. We were getting you caught up on the W.A.S.P catalog. That Still Not Black Enough was very similar to its predecessor, stylistically and sonically. Kill.Fuck.Die is not quite in the same zip code. Where were you in 1997, and what were your impressions of listening to this album and kind of in the contrast to what we've talked about musically before this?
Well, that's different, two different planets, because in 97 I was, getting started in a new career, building a family, and actually trying to squeak in having my own band at the time. So I really wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to what was coming out, but I did have a friend who was giving me insights to stuff like Nine Inch Nails and Ministry and Filter, the industrial stuff. And this is definitely a foray into trying to get into that ballpark, which give him an A for effort on that. But sonically, this thing is it's a mess, to be honest with you. Just a little insight from when you're recording with a band. There's always a habit of where you burn a quick CD or you pop a tape into a car and you go see what it sounds like in the car. And that's a big, important decision. And Mark Anthony Kaye would echo this, that you want to hear what it sounds like in the car before you call it your final mix, because it'll sound like a mess. And in my Jeep, this thing sounds horrible. But it does sound better at home through the headphones or through the speakers and all that stuff. But it was basically, W.A.S.P had the reputation of being a hair metal / glam metal band. Then they got a little more heavy and serious. But then with this album, they kind of put an industrial overcoat on it, and it kind of looked like a fat guy in a small jacket.
Yeah, I think with your Jeep, you might want to have the windows down and the cover off if it's convertible. Mark is militant about his car radio test for all his mixes, and it's a very important part of his creative life. Talking about creative life, Andy, you're ready for Halloween?
No, not really. Not ready for Halloween because
he dresses every.
Well, the problem is with Halloween. Well, Halloween, the month of October is my holiday, anyways. I just call it the whole month. Greatest month of the year for me. Period. But with everything going on with the world, they don't even know if they're going to do, the whole trick or treating thing. So it's kind of like it's if I start pulling stuff out and start putting stuff everywhere, then there's going to be crowds, and they really don't want crowds. So I don't think I didn't pull anything really out because actually took everything down. I used to have everything up basically downstairs on the first floor. The walls are done, everything's done, and after having it up for like 5 or 6 years straight, when Kim moved in, she didn't mind. She doesn't mind it, but she was like, hey, can you take it down for at least a year? So I ended up taking it all down, and I ended up packing it, and of course we got married, and then the COVID stuff hit, so and then it does take me, I usually have to start in August, kind of late August, start putting stuff, because like I said, I do the walls and everything first, get, coatings, put the first coat on, then the second coat and everything else. And then you never know how the weather is too, because you can't put stuff outside, for a couple of reasons. Number one, electronic stuff, you don't want to get wet and get ruined. Yep. But two, you want stuff to get stolen. That's all it is. The world sucks. People suck. That's anyways.
This is the perfect soundtrack for 2020 Where were you at in '97 when you first encountered this album?
Well, we're all Kiss fans. So at that point, 96, 97, we're all like doing a whole Kiss thing and stuff like that. And all the bands started to come out, which who the hell was popular in 97? I don't even remember. And I don't really care. So anyways, I would still go to a record, here in New England, there are still record stores, believe it or not, people, because I've been going out every week for the last weekends on here for hunting like flea markets and records. Actually found record stores and stuff. It's kind of crazy. And so I've been picking up stuff in here. So back then, go to my local, I think Strawberries might have been gone by 97. Strawberries Records and Tapes was a New England thing. So I might have picked this up if it wasn't gone. I either picked this one up at this place called Newberry Comics, I think. There's another New England kind of record store. They were kind of big and they kind of flaked a little bit. There's a couple left, but I walked in the door and I'm like, yeah, looking for Kiss stuff. I always see if there's bootlegs and stuff because Newberry Comics was really good about doing that stuff. And then all of a sudden, I got to keep checking on the W.A.S.P stuff anyways. And all of a sudden, I see it. This is sitting there, and I'm like, okay. Like, when I look at it, I'm like, this has got to be some kind of like bootleg. Because I'm like, it doesn't even have Blackie Lawless on the cover. Not on the front, not on the back when you had it wrapped. And I'm like, wait a minute. And you could barely, you see the W.A.S.P and the KFD, which you really can't see it at all. It's all fuzzed out. So you're like, what is this? And then you flip it over and you're like, this is nuts. And there's a pig hanging in the background in the back. And I'm like, this is nuts. So of course I got to buy it. And then, like you said, you do the radio test. I flapped it in the radio in the car, like as you guys said, the car test. And I put it in and I'm like, what is this? This is bizarre. Because I'm like opening it up, and now you can actually read what it says because they got the refrigerator. When that weird Julian's favorite digipack, it opens up, and then a little thing refrigerator opens up, and there's another half pig in there, and I don't know if that's a girl or a boy or a kid. He's stuffed in the refrigerator, and I'm going, now this is my kind of thing because this is horror, kind of the horror stuff, So I'm like, this is kind of interesting. So, of course, when you flip it over, there's the pig, and there's the KFD in there. And next it's like, W.A.S.P KFD. And I'm like, man, this isn't a bootleg. This is the real deal. And then all of a sudden I slap it in. And I'm like, start doing the drive. And I'm like, wow, what did they do? Like a one flip around, And I'm like, this is weird. But the thing was, when I first started listening to it, I couldn't turn it up. I could only turn this. This is one thing I hate about this CD. You can only turn it up so far, and then, turn it up to 10. No, you can only turn it up to about 5 or 6. After that, it gets all distorted.
That's where it doesn't work in a Jeep, because if you've got all the outside wind of the vehicle, then you can't hear the radio anyway.
Yeah, but it's so weird. Do you guys feel the same way when you try to turn it up?
Yeah, sonically, this thing has, as Bill mentioned, it has issues. And it's not just your usual blacky, buzzy guitars. But one of the things that I didn't notice initially, and I was online, so I kind of knew that Chris Holmes was back in the band. But if you open up at least the UK Cal or Raw Power CD, you can barely see where it says Chris Holmes on guitar. But one of the weird things in 1997 was that a lot of bands had kind of decided to go down that industrial, path. Motley Crue, Generation Swine, and their industrial Shout at the Devil, version on that, and some of the more metallic stuff. I wasn't well versed on industrial music as such as a genre. Nine Inch Nails, I'd heard some of that stuff. But to me, I think the closest I'd gotten to it was a Kerrang sampler CD in '94 that had, I think, Biohazard or Therapy or Prong, or something like that, which was kind of more of the emerging industrial stuff. And I don't even remember which one of them was the really industrial sound. So slamming this in, going from that Motley Crue CD, Generation Swine, which has a lot of really kind of normal, as far as Motley Crue goes, music, into that, kind of reinterpretation of Shout at the Devil, into this was a whole new sound. I was thrilled that Chris Holmes was back in the band. Did you know that he was before that, Andy?
No, not really. Like I said, when I saw the CD, it was just, didn't he? The internet was the internet even out? Would they? I don't think, like in a weird way, they weren't even.
I think they had W.A.S.P even back in '97.
Yeah, but I don't think there was really too much about it or about them. I know it's very bizarre. I see things now that Blackie and Chris were overseas at places doing interviews and looking at Blackie Lost and how they look. They painted their faces. They're like kind of whitish, and then the teardrops on his eyes. And talking about they went from shock rock to freaking kill rock.
Well, actually, they just wanted to look like Andy Moyen.
Yeah. No way. But I mean, it was like in Blackie in one of the interviews was, they did a lot of interviews, all overseas all the time. But in one of the interviews said that him and Chris, when they got back together again, is that they went out, they were overseas, and when they were out, at clubs and partying or whatever they were doing, they would go to these clubs, and all of a sudden they were hearing these weird sounds, like drum sounds and things clashing and banging, and they're like, hey, we could do this. So this is kind of what they experimented. And then at the same time, I think I saw another interview, well, of course, that Chris Holmes had broke up with Lita, or vice versa, and Blackie was in a long relationship with somebody, and he was out of a relationship. So you had Chris and Blackie in a very angry mode. And I think that's what they said. Some of the songs were written, they were pissed off.
Yeah, that's one of the comments that they make in the press kit. Bill, did you have a chance to watch that press kit video? Because it's basically KFD, and I'm not a prude or anything, but I just do not like that title. It's not like something that comes up, very comfortable in conversation. Hey, man, let's talk about Kill.Fuck.Die. I mean, it just, and you go into that electronic press kit, and they talk pretty much that this is a concept album with recurring themes of like relationship pain, emotional suffering, and anger. So that seems to be an undercurrent of negative energy that kind of permeates through the album. Bill, your kind of take on that?
Isn't that a lot of that is a film from MTV Europe or something? That EPK.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I did see that, and it's kind of weird because they're saying they're wanting to. It's basically like them coming out to say that, well, we're trying to sound like all these depressed industrial bands. We're miserable, and we want to screw, and we want to die, and all that stuff. But yeah, it was interesting to just see that because if there's anything this album isn't, it's fun. And that was a big part of the W.A.S.P sound to me was, there was a lot of fun stuff on it, even like Rebel and the FDG from, Headless Children. That was fun. It had a cool groove to it and everything like that. But yeah, it just seemed like they were trying to act like who they were trying to lump themselves in with the industrial bands, where they're like, kind of indignant to everything of the past. And even the industrial bands, when they were using distorted guitars like metal and, blasting drums and all that, and then they kind of thumbed their nose to metal and was like, we're not metal. It's like, no, you're just using all of the elements. So what's the difference, really? But yeah, it basically just kind of seemed like a lot of posturing to me in the EPK.
Yeah, and I think Blackie goes so far as to call it snuff rock, which
that's the one I was looking for.
Yeah, that's not one I find particularly endearing. But then again, going back to 1997, it was a year of, again, I mentioned The Crew, and in 97, we have to mention Kiss and their Carnival of Souls. It was a lot of old school bands hopping on different bandwagons to varying degrees of failure, because I don't think one of them pulled them off. And my initial impressions of this album were not positive. I got through it and I put it away, and I really didn't revisit it for many years. And then one day I was in a really foul mood, and I said, you know what, I'm in the mood to listen to Kill.Fuck.Die, because my mood kind of married up with the music on the album. We're going to go track by track in a couple of minutes here, but again, mood. And as I started revisiting it, I started honing in on a few songs or a few riffs or a few things that started jumping out at me. And like, okay, it grows on me in parts, and in very few parts. Andy, kind of your thoughts on, you mentioned your initial impressions. How often do you go back and listen to this over the years, or have you just pulled it out of your collection for this show?
Oh no! To me, this CD was made for a horror movie. Point blank, man. This is all horror movie. This could be a great soundtrack to a horror movie. I don't know. That's
that's it. This could be a great soundtrack to a horror movie.
The same token, that's something you can't really rock out to when your 4-year-old's in his car seat behind you either. So that's where I had a problem with it. I couldn't have listened to this when my kids were like 4 and 5 years old, because it would have been an interesting first day at school, needless to say.
Well, it's quite a quantum leap from like being a horror movie, Scream Until You Like It, or Night of the Living Dead. Some of the stuff or Dream Warriors and Dawkins. This is Halloween. This is, Kill.Fuck.Die is almost, Michael Myers-ish, or Freddy Krueger, or Jason in Friday, or whatever those are. I'm not a big horror fan, so there we go.
There's a video on YouTube. It's got, it's got the KFD song, and they got Michael Myers. It's perfect. It's perfect for Michael Myers. Some of these songs should be. It's a horror film. It's not your pansy horror film. Not like you be. Well, I guess it could be either. It's definitely. It sounds like a soundtrack for a really deep, dark, and I mean dark, horror film.
Yeah, I had it. I said, how much scarier would Shocker have been if W.A.S.P had done the soundtrack and used a lot of this in Shocker, to where it wasn't, the hairband thing like what it ended up being. If Wes Craven would have picked Blackie Lawless to do the soundtrack and he used this, people would have been having nightmares of Horace Pinker.
Yeah, that's actually an extremely good point, that, this could fit in. Danny Trejo, those sorts of gore films that have been kind of popularized in recent years, or, The Human Caterpillar. This is right up there. Let's get into some of these songs, leading off the album, the title track. Bill, let's start with you. Your thoughts on that one.
Okay. Well, on the Sonics, I have a little bit of a statement I prepared, where I didn't like the buzzy guitar of Blackie's on Still Not Black Enough. I think the guitars on this are really good, but the big foobar or snafu or whatever you want to call it is the drums. The drums are so hardcore electronically programmed, and that god-awful crash cymbal. That's it. It's the same crash cymbal sound all the way through the whole album. And I'll elaborate on some of those in a little bit. But going back to the first one, because I kind of selected mine as best and worst. But, Kill.Fuck.Die is definitely one of the most techno-angled tunes. It might work better if the drums were more arranged in an industrial techno vein, but they weren't. They were kind of programmed like a metal song. And I was exhausted by that damn crash cymbal by the end of the song. It was just like every 4 beats, that's exactly what the drum sounds like on the snare, the cymbal sound. The drums aren't terrible, but they're, as far as the drums itself, the arrangement's bad. But the actual sample of the crash cymbal, there's no resonance to it, because when you get a crash cymbal, it's like that, and it fades. And when you get, it's almost like, you're dropping your keys over and over again. They just go dead once they hit the table, and it got really exhausting. But that's all I got on that one.
Nice. Andy, your thoughts on the title track?
Well, again, I wish, I'm not really big into remakes of like albums in the first place. But I wish they do something with this CD so we could turn it up to 10. That's my biggest. I mean, I'm not like you said. I used to back then. Like you said, you hit 9 Inch Nails. That was probably really the only industrial you'd hear. I never really heard on a radio. I think I don't know anybody else really. So to me,
industrials kind of started branching out, and this is where industrial led into the new metal. So you were actually getting entire stations that was playing like this, and then they eventually ended up playing Limp Bizkit and Korn and all that stuff that followed after. So this industrial period of the late 90s is kind of the bridge into that.
Oh, because to me it was all new then. When I got it, I was like, this is new. I never heard anything like it. I think, like I said again, just every time I go put this on, I want to listen to it. I want to turn it up, but I can't.
Who needs to reproduce this is the guy who does Rammstein albums. If he got hold of that, this would be a brutal album, and your ears would bleed. You'd turn it up so loud because that stuff is, where you want your drums and even the guitars to be rhythmic in nature. Rammstein is just, it's perfect. That's the best thing about them. I mean, they sing in German and I don't even know what they sing, but I love their stuff because it's just so aggressively rhythmic. It doesn't matter whether it's the guitar, the drums, or even the lyrics.
But the thing is, though, I like it. It's weird. I mean, I think it brings me into the Halloween thing, the month of October, this whole thing about, I don't know, the horror films. That's what it brings me to. That's where it kind of brings me to that escape. That's where I call it my escape. And everybody, I have a great relationship and stuff, so I'm not mad at somebody. I don't have anymore. I'm past that point of like angriness or stuff like that, but I still love this CD for some strange reason.
Well, I mean, that's very similar to what I just said, that I'd get into one of those very, like, moods, and, like, what do I want? It's a KFD day, I'm going to listen to that, because it does fit into moods, as does most of the music in my collection. Again, it's my soundtrack, but they all have a place. I mean, they may not get played more than once a decade, but every album will, at some point, come back into my life, and I'm like, I need to listen to that album, and I'm surprised at how often this one does. The title track, I like the riff. I mean, immediately, it's a good lead-off track from that perspective. It's one of the worst radio edits ever released in the history of radio edits, nearly as bad as Gene Simmons' sheep edit for Asshole. Kill.Die is what they did to make that radio accessible, but they still left the F-bomb on the packaging. So how many radio stations actually got one of these and said, what, our listeners really want to listen to this?
You said this.
You want to play in front of your mom? I mean, you like Bill said, you're gonna sit there with your kids around and listen to it, or maybe your wife or girlfriend. It's one of those things. Yeah, I guess you put
headphones. Yep.
Headphones, or you're by yourself and you just in your car by yourself driving somewhere or going someplace, or you're in your hangout and it's a shitty day, it's raining or something. I don't know.
You're stuck in traffic. You haven't moved in the last 15 minutes. You just keep turning it up until it becomes that wall of white noise.
Yeah, and then you look at the people next to you, and you're driving, you're stuck in the traffic, and you go, "Yep, piss me off," because I'm going to step out of the car any second.
Where Julian said that this is a perfect album for 2020, this track is a perfect track for 2020, because it's kind of the angle where, when we was growing up, you had life sucks and then you die. And that's pretty much what this whole damn song's about. It's like, you want to kill, then you want to fuck, and then you just want to die. And it makes it a perfect song for 2020.
We've discovered the COVID album. But, going back to the 80s when Blackie said, Manimal, the son of Animal. Well, this is like the grandson of Animal. Because it's very similar to Animal Fuck Like a Beast, right at the beginning, in terms of the aggression that it represents and the rage. So, you know, that's all I got for this one.
You know, when kill your mother cry.
But it's worse. It's actually worse than everybody makes a big deal about Animal. I think he says the phrase like twice in the whole song. This KFD, man, he says it way the hell a lot more.
But and that's why I think it's the grandson of Animal, because it's that same sort of outrageous offensiveness deliberately. And while that may have worked in 1983, it was like, we're going to reinvent ourselves with the same move. So here's an outrageous track, an outrageous interview. We're going to, here's our makeup. Here's our story about this album. It's just outrage. But you know what? In 1997, pretty much everyone had seen it all by then anyway. So yeah, it was a little bit of a moot point. Let's move on into song 2. Take the Addiction. I always thought it was Taste the Addiction, because I don't read so good, apparently. But my only notes on this is that Blackie decided that he needed to write a song that was like the real me, only industrial-like. And musically, from this point on in the catalog, I start hearing a lot of elements of previous W.A.S.P songs. Whenever I hear something, I'm like, oh, that's got a little taste of this. This totally has a taste of real me to me, just industrial, the real industrial me, and that's all I got. I actually like the song. Bill,
it's actually one of my favorites. I have it as one of my top 3. I got a little hint of it where, like the theme of the song was, basically heroin looking for its next victim, and then if you think about it, this is 97, and if he's giving me that kind of impression, he is light years ahead on hard rock and metal bands writing about heroin. But I mean, knowing now what I know about heroin, it gives me the feel that, it's just basically waiting. It's heroin laying low, looking pretty, and waiting for its next victim. It's a great song, and I love the freight train feel of the whole riff all the way through the song. It just relentless and doesn't let up.
Yeah, nice. Andy.
Yeah, it's an awesome song. And Bill took the words right out of my mouth. It seems like he already knew about how much the drugs, the heroin, and all that was like going to be a big thing, and just the riffs that Chris does. It's too bad, like I said, be able to turn it up, But it just seems like Blackie seems to be ahead of his time at times, like he's already thinking about what's going to happen like 5 years from now. And some of the stuff that he's done and said, it's happened. It's weird, in ways, Well,
kind of bridging the gap, because who did he replace in the New York Dolls? Johnny Thunders, correct? Yeah. So Johnny Thunders was, he was the Scott Weiland of the 70s. He was the heroin horror story. Of course, he died in the 80s, didn't he?
Yeah.
Johnny Thunders did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but he was smacked out the whole back end of the 70s. That's why he ended up out of the Dolls and, playing with other junkies, junkies of like kind or whatever, But good God, what kind of music did they make? It was great stuff. But yeah, I mean, he was kind of bridging the gap to where, it's kind of a reminder. It's like, yeah, this has went on and it will go on.
Yeah, I mean, it's in Blackie's voice is, at this time is still phenomenal too.
It's superb.
He was ripping on it with his voice, man, just like unbelievable. The stuff,
Yeah, this vocal could be right up there as one of the best on this album, but it's also a very brutal one. I mean, I like Bill's, take on heroin, but I also see, that addiction can be like that. Drug is love, and the emotional connection, so you get into the relationship side of this, that relationship energy is as, powerful as heroin or a drug, so you just kind of, weird. Let's move into the ballad. And again, you get into kind of my take on this is, I hear elements of a lot of stuff, and My Tortured Eyes, I have echoes of Cries in the Night on this. and again, blasting it with industrial rage. It's just what I get out of that, and Cries in the Night is such a I mean, that dates from the very earliest part of his career as well, because that had been done, I think, by Circus or Sister in a different guise, and was revisited by W.A.S.P. Bill.
And Cries in the Night is one of my favorite Blackie compositions, period, along with Sleeping in the Fire, which both happen to be ballads. I didn't actually write down any notes on that because I just kind of missed it when I was going through my list. But yeah, My Tortured Eyes, it's got a wild angle to it, and I think Andy reminded us of it a while ago, kill me so my tortured eyes never see you again. It's like, that's heavy, the concepts on this are great. And actually, where you were talking about vocals, the vocals are awesome on it. Chris's lead playing is fantastic. But I mean, for some reason, I think a lot of this album gets killed in the sonic. But this isn't necessarily one of them. Some of the others are. But I don't have a whole lot more on My Tortured Eyes.
Andy.
Well, this is pretty. Like I said, this is a pretty deep song. I mean, I've had, I know there are a lot of people out there that don't have great relationships with their parents, man, but I've had a good one. But this song, man, if there are people out there that feel this way, my tortured eye, kill me and watch me die, mom, dad, those lyrics in there, when you start listening to, I mean, it's one thing. Do you listen to the lyrics as the song, or you listen to the music wise, or do you put them together?
With this, putting them together went a lot further than doing either or. Because just looking at the lyrics, it's kind of like, okay. But then when, I was doing my final wrap up and finishing my notes, I was going through track by track and just flipping through from lyric to lyric, and it made a world of difference as opposed to listening to it alone in the Jeep, and it was a nightmare again.
I wonder who's singing it in some ways. I mean, it's almost like a Crimson Idol-ish, the depression song.
Right.
It's a call for help, primal therapy.
Basically, he's saying, mom or dad or both of them, kill me so you never have to see me again and watch me die because you don't like me. That's why you look at it. You hate me that much. Just kill me so I'll never have to see you again. It's, it's another one of those, to me, it's just another, it's like a horror movie. That's what that's why I keep coming back to this album. It's a horror movie album to me. It's like somebody got messed up. That's, but I don't know. It's so hard to do with this CD. I like it though. I like 99% of the CD, but it's just so weird how it just,
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere near 99%, Andy. Sorry, I find it exhausting because of just the continuous stream of rage, the continuous stream of pain, the continuous stream of anger. At least Crimson had some hope. Still Not Black Enough has some themes of hopefulness and joy. This is just like a shit sandwich of an album in terms of it's your COVID album. You've covered that, we've covered that. It is this year.
Yeah, but it's like, again, you got to be in that mood, I guess you got to be in that mood, stuff like that. If this, like I said, I mean,
I'm sorry, you going to be in a 2020 mood anytime soon?
I don't know. Yeah, but I'm not.
Speaking of that, I think one of the great plans is to stay up to midnight, not to make sure the new year rings in, but to make sure this one leaves.
Yes. Yeah, and we're not turning the clocks back this year because we don't need another hour of 2020, right?
Straight.
All right.
But I do like the song, even though it's deep and it's, it's, like I said, I have a good relationship with my parents, but the song is pretty damn deep.
And that's the thing, is at least you can recognize that not everybody has the same situation as you, because there are people that, I had a decent relationship with my mother. My father passed away when I was young, but I do recognize the fact that there are people who have been totally brutal to their children,
Yep.
whether it's emotionally, physically, or any of the above. But then there's also people who's had, absolute fantastic relationships with their parents. So it's still good that you can recognize the yin and the yang of that. But this is
Yeah.
just the yang or the yin,
Deep.
whatever.
All right, let's move on. Kill Ahead. And for me, again, I get another echo of songs from the past, and this starts off like an industrial big welcome from the Electric Circus. So I've always felt that this should have been the lead-off track from the album, but it's like White Limo from Foo Fighters, Wasting Love. Dave Grohl. It again. Lyrically, I just can't sing along to Die Baby Die. Oh hell yeah, Die Baby Die, gonna make your mother cry. Kill Ahead, kill. I mean, it's just not something I can really bop my head along to, because while musically it trucks along, and I think creatively, I don't have a problem with the music overall on this album. It's the lyrics, because once you start finding yourself coming along, you're like, kill baby, mother, die. What? And you have instant guilt of my parochial school upbringing of, I can't be enjoying this because orgasmic, my high-tech sex, high-tech death, the animal you are. Oh God, I mean, just go through those lyrics and just shake your head, Bill.
It's one of the greatest Wasp. I mean, it's the second best Wasp arrangement on the album. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the lyrics either. And that's the thing is, I had a pretty conservative Christian upbringing, and it's kind of tweaking me a little bit too, listening to it. This is definitely the one that you didn't want to hear the kids. None of these you want your kids to hear you sing. I got my granddaughter in the next room, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm not saying Kill.Fuck.Die too loud. But anyway, yeah, I mean, but as far as the arrangements, it almost has kind of the rapid fire chug of like Ball Crusher, and I think it made my honorable mentions. I don't know if we were going to do a best and worst or not, but yeah, I mean, it's in my top 5 of the album, at least. Yeah, I think and then I already said a thing about Horace Pinker, being terrified if they'd done this. If this had been on the Shocker soundtrack, people would have been terrified of Horace Pinker instead of laughing at him, because I thought the movie was funny. But anyway.
Yeah, I think you bring up something interesting there, especially talking back to your upbringing and my own parochial, upbringing, is this challenges us.
Oh yeah.
And it makes us uncomfortable, even as adults. And it's not like I'm 14. I'm a complete free being to talk how I want to and sing what I want to. I would never sing this or play this around my wife. Just she likes Queen and Andrea Bocelli, and this. I think if I played it with the speakers, through the speakers, I would just be disrespecting her. By doing that. And just like Bill's mentioning, that you don't want to really say the title too loud. It's a very strange place that it's putting us in as adults. Well, Andy, sorry to say your name in the same sentence as adult.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I'm a big kid, so I don't care. I don't really care. Yeah, it is one of those things where you might, again, I play. We repeat ourselves. It's hard to play some of these songs maybe in front of people. They'll just look at you and go, "What the is this stuff?" But I don't know, man. For some strange reason, I really like the album. I don't know what it is, and I'm not. I like it. Kill her head, kill her. I don't know. Again, it's one of those mood things. If I played it in front of Kim, she'd probably just go, "What is this?" And she goes, it's probably a W.A.S.P album, because she recognizes Blackie's voice now from me playing like other stuff in the car, stuff like that. If we take a long road trip or something, and sometimes they're doing that really, really night driving. If you take it, go on those trips or the concerts, or or I'm like, or the Expos or something. Once in a while, I'm like, yeah, I got to slap in the Wasp late at night. I'm like, and she goes, yep, he's doing his drive music. Get the hell out, like get out of his way. We drive nuts in Massachusetts, anyways. But again, I don't know. I love the song. It just goes together with the flow. I understand the lyrics get a little bit, people get scared of the lyrics, but when I play in front of my mom, I played. She'd just be going, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
So
but your mom's that sort of lady, so
yeah. My mom would be like, yeah, whatever. And I think the other thing too would be about, even though we understand the lyrics and stuff, a lot of people probably won't unless we repeat them loud enough, because I mean, people don't understand Blackie's voice. You know what I'm saying?
and also they're very. You really need the lyrics up with this. They don't come in They didn't come in my version of the album, so that was probably fortunate. And they didn't have transcriptions of the album back then anyway, so that certainly helps. And it goes back to Bill's comments about Rammstein. It helps with some music that you're just able to get into the vibe. Now you think about all those people who don't speak English who listen to, American rock and roll and the Beatles and all that and didn't understand a word, but were more going off the feel of it. So,
well, I mean, I think you could understand the Beatles song. I mean, they say the title of the song within half a second.
Yeah, and the rest of the lyrics are yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, kill ahead, kill ahead, kill ahead, kill ahead. That's the best lyrics in the song.
Kill ahead.
You would expect Blackie to write a chorus like kill ahead, he's gonna get you when you're in bed, kill ahead, or something like that. But I mean, you're just basically repeating kill ahead, even though as repetitive as it is, it's the best lyric in the song, because really the verses don't do a whole lot for me now that I know what the verses actually say. But the song as a whole, it's all right, That's why it didn't make my top 3, but it's okay.
Yeah, didn't make my top 3. Let's move into one that does make my top, and it's Kill Your Pretty Face.
Wow.
This one to me, again, I have memories, I have visuals, if they remade Apocalypse Now, I can see Blackie flying around a Delta with a winged version of Elvis, his microphone stand, bloody sun setting in the background, and then letting rip into shreds of girlfriends getting blasted by 50 caliber Gatling guns. I mean, I get that whole intro sequence to Apocalypse Now with this music in my head, and it's kind of Charlie Manson meets Jim Morrison, the lyrics. I love it. The song, I think, is absolutely fantastic. It's like an industrial Freebird. It's kind of building energy, and tension is rising throughout the song, and then it erupts into the chorus. Yeah, this is right up there for me. And you seem surprised, Andy.
Yeah, I'm just surprised because you just said you would play this. You would play, and you play this in front of somebody, and like, to me, another horror movie, torture horror movie, without a doubt.
Well, if you think about it, Apocalypse Now is about as real life horror as it gets.
Yeah,
but it wasn't about a freaky monster or something, but it was definitely about the horror of what happened.
Yeah, but I'm thinking the visual of Kill Your Pretty Face is basically some whack job, or whatever, one horror movie has got some chick, bound up, tied up, and he just basically slices her and dices her pretty face right off. And I'm pretty sure that Blackie wrote this song about his ex because he was pissed. This song is to me is like the central song for dudes, for guys who are pissed off at an ex-girlfriend or ex-wife. You know what I mean? You just get so mad. You just like, You know, especially when you were kids or teenagers or high
the
schools.
rage of wanting to destroy that which you loved so that no one else can have it. I mean that is a very, again, Apocalypse Now type thing of I can't have it, you can't have it, no one else is going to have it. I'm going to destroy it all and napalm your face.
Yeah. and not only that, if I remember right, I should remember this. I should have researched this. I saw this tour, and they played this song live, and this is when Blackie jumped up on his buddy there, the skeleton. I know he named it. I'm going to get crucified because I can't remember the name now. And he put that big. After a while, he started putting all kinds of almost like voodoo stuff all over it, whatever I used to shake back and forth. But when I saw this tour, holy schmoly, shit, man, he came. I'd never seen anything like it. He came out, jumped up on a thing, started doing the song nice and slow. There's videos out there, and nice and slow. He's got his leg wrapped around it. You know, he's up top, but he's got his leg wrapped around it. And next, he just starts swinging very slowly while he's starting to sing the song. And also, they turn out the light because he's got the stuff on him, and nobody knew at the time what it was. It was just like all gooped all over him. But when they shut out the lights, it glowed in the dark. And I'd never seen anything like that. It was so bizarre, but bizarre way is it's so wicked awesome. And it's just like on his face, on his hair, and he's just like, and he's doing the rocking back and forth. And as the song progresses, he just a little faster, and he's just rocking, and his stuff just flying everywhere. It was totally off the hook. Loved it.
Yeah, and you can see some of that footage in the electronic press kit, which of course we'll put the link to in the bottom of this for YouTube viewers. For listeners, you just have to use your imagination about all of these nightmares. Bill?
Well, I guess I'm going to be the odd man out in this one because I thought the music was okay and the lyrics were okay, but it didn't seem like they went together. It's like the music could have been great if it was done with something else, but it just didn't seem like the music and the lyrics fit for me, so I didn't have a whole lot more than that.
All right, let's move on into... Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about these next two, Fetus and Little Death. I'll say this. They were deleted from the Japanese version of the album, and I totally get why. I am not a fan. Especially Little Death. Fetus is the kind of instrumental build-up into Little Death, and Little Death I just do not care for in any way. Bill?
Well, starting with Fetus... I have Fetus written down as basically useless film score music, which basically being a predecessor to Little Death, that is. But Little Death made the top of my least favorite list. And I'm going to read right off my notes. Having followed Fetus, I would presume it was about being aborted, but I didn't really get that from the lyrics. This is the first song that you listened to, and you got pretty close to the Ministry, Nine Inch Nail, industrial vibe of the song and the lyrics, but as nonsensical as they appear, it's a trend of the time. And no, I did not feel young or the special gas of magic, and I'm pretty thankful for the second part.
Yep. Andy?
Yeah, I would agree. As a listening to an album, it's not really either my two favorites on the album. These are probably the two, I'm going to say, the clunkers, because it seems like for like a horror movie again, or a movie, like some part of the movie, this is going to happen, another kind of torture. Oh, this woman's going to have a baby, and guess what? Either somebody's going to die in this,
Yeah.
It's just a setup for that. And I don't know. Did he do this really? Did they do this to hopefully get some kind of score for a movie? I don't know. It almost sounds like that's what it. When you listen to this stuff, it's kind of like the music from the Elder thing. Not the same kind of music in a way, totally opposites. But it sounds like, hey, yeah, it's just trying to be a thing for a movie.
Well, hey, if Eddie Van Halen can do pornos, soundtracks,
Well, and that's one thing I got thinking about this, is where, Andy had said up front about it being so much for it be horror movie music. This could be like W.A.S.P version of A Kind of Magic, where A Kind of Magic from Queen was like all that movie from all the music from the Highlander, and then they went back and they put the lyrics in over it. And if you stripped all the lyrics around on this, yeah, it would be ideal movie score music, which maybe Fetus would fit in a little bit better if it was depicting a scene, but it's just kind of meandering to me. But yeah, I mean, it would be ideal music. And actually, this was kind of properly of the time, because this is when you were leading into, the more intense horror films and, the mind thrillers and stuff like that, from like what Rob Zombie ended up doing with House of a Thousand Corpses and stuff like that. If Rob Zombie hadn't been a musician in his own right, he could have used this and some of that, because it kind of parallels it.
Yep. All right. Let's get out of that trench. You. Part 2 of Kill Your Pretty Face. I think this is the breakup song on the album. Immediately made me think of Megadeth, and something I've listened to a lot more. I think The World Needs a Hero, and 1,000 Times Goodbye, which starts off, I think, with a phone call, or whichever song it is on there, of the girl kind of dumping him. I found someone else. We'll always be friends. You fucking suck. Yeah, and that really is kind of everything in this song is just about that. You've been dumped, and now he's fantasizing about, you fucking suck.
Point blank. This is basically like you just got the rug pulled from you. Hey, I love you. I'm going to give you everything. Here's my money. Here's my here's everything. Here's my house. Here's my life insurance policy. Here's everything.
Yep.
I'm dumping you.
Yeah.
You suck. You know what I mean?
So it looks like Andy and I are reading this one exactly the same way, Bill.
I think I'm going to be joining the consensus, because, again, I'm going to go straight from my notes, because if the whole rock star thing hadn't panned out for Blackie, he could have had a bright future in the greeting card industry, because who would have a box of cards that you could just hand this to the people that so deserve it? It's just like that asshole that pisses you off at work every day. You just walk up and hand him a little card that says you on one side, and you flip it over and it says, you fucking suck. And I would order those like Vistaprint business cards. Some of the people
you know what? You just gave somebody a good idea. They're probably gonna, after they see this, they're probably gonna do it. But a trademark.
You got to spread love in the world, and even if it's just letting, honesty's important. Here's my card. You fucking suck.
But it's so weird though when you listen to the song, right? You're thinking, yeah, it's not great. You said, you're like, oh, this is in one of the, the better song. Well, depending on what you guys think about, not one of the better songs off the CD. But then when you start listening to it, you're like, all of a sudden you see yourself around your room or by yourself.
Yeah, come on. This whole attitude comes out on a daily basis. You could be in a meeting, with colleagues and coworkers, and you just sometimes have someone, and you just want to turn around, and this is the song for that moment. This can be the song about relationships. I mean, I think most people go through life and they've been dumped at least once, and they've felt that way, or they've done the dumping and someone's thinking this about them. So it really is, it's the best representation without going into kind of the snuff fest of some of the other songs, that it kind of delivers the message of the album's overall theme in the most clinical manner and radio friendly way.
I actually like the song. It made my top 3.
Yeah, it's up there, because once we get into some of the other, the remaining 2 songs, and we'll talk about the Japanese bonus track as well, Wicked Love, all I've got on that is just, I like the drums. Everything else doesn't do much for me. I was looking through the lyrics, and I was thinking, like, this is way too wordy, and I just go back to, I like the drums. Andy.
Oh, I don't. This song is kind of weird because I don't know. Is this like? It's almost like. Do I even want to dare say it? Like it's like an adult dude, like after a kid, you know, like a woman, like underage. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want to go there. You know, that's it. That's it for me.
White butch bohemian bitch.
Yeah. I just like, I don't know. Just do me. It's like, okay. I like, yeah. I like a good horror movie, but I don't need to go like, kind of like that deep with that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It is a point where it gets over the point. That's how I look at this kind of song. Like It's really, I don't know. It's just, it sounds almost like it's a younger girl and it's an older dude, and you know what happens, and whatever. So I don't know. Bitch, just do me, and I'm like, holy man, here we go. You know, it's just more like to me, it's almost like, okay, paying for sex and just kind of like rape me, screw me, and then leave me. It's kind of like KFD, but it's like a little bit, but I'm still alive. You know,
like KFD, but I'm still alive.
Right? That's all I got on that.
All right.
F and D.
All right, Bill, take it away.
Okay, well, here I go being the odd man out again because this made my top 3 as well. I think it's probably the most W.A.S.P sounding song on the album, and it actually wouldn't surprise me if it was like a leftover from '84. As far as the pedophilia angle that Andy's seeing, I'm not exactly seeing that because I have had romantic interludes with adults where baby has been a term. So I don't necessarily see that unless you get into, you have to really go into the harder toward the pedophilia angle for that. So I didn't really see that. But then, and there's the all out horniness. I mean, this could probably be Animal's next door neighbor, as far as, he's watching all the grandkids grow up down the street. But I mean, I really like the song, and I thought it sounded like most W.A.S.P like on the album.
I like the sound of the guitars and all that stuff. I love it. I just thought, maybe I'm thinking this one in too deep, the lyrics wise. Maybe that's why, but I like the music itself.
It's hard not to throughout this album because it's just like a shovel, and you're digging deeper. When you get down to the cesspool in the basement, you're probably misinterpreting, who knows? Go figure.
Yeah, you pick it up, sniff it, and go, what does that smell like?
What it smells like is the last track, the horror.
That's the thing, though, is this is another example of Chris's guitar playing being fantastic. After a couple Bob Kulick runs with W.A.S.P, Chris really did have to prove himself coming back. And I think he did a good job as far as solo-wise. And really, the song constructions aren't bad. It's just, it kind of goes back to the production.
Yeah, and when you think about his playing throughout the album, and again, I don't think we know how much overall is definitively him, but it does have a feel to like 1984 and that aggression that permeated that first album. And when you look at the Live at the Lyceum, London live show from '84, his attack, and just his overall style is just all over this, just with an updated sound.
Like when he nails that, like on Lyceum, when he nails the guitar solo and Sleeping in the Fire. I just got goosebumps thinking about that because he just has a brutal attack when he's going into a lead like that. So I was definitely impressed with it.
That's one of my favorite rock concert videos to watch, that Live '84. Great set, anyway. All right, let's move into the last song, The Horror. Very long song, 8 minutes and a half. And to me, this is just very, again, going back to that theme of I hear elements from other albums. Bill, you were just saying that Wicked Love could have been like a recycle from earlier in some ways. I think the horror is like a leftover from Crimson Idol.
Mhm.
You know, it would fit in easily on what was it, Re-Idolized, that it kind of could fit into any narrative of storytelling just throughout, and it's sonics, but it also wraps up the album nicely in that it's got those lyrics of all pigs die, kill, fuck, die. I mean, it brings it full circle to the beginning, which is, of course, the title track. So it ties it all together. And I am hell, godless me, I am pagan, idolatry. It's like he's just singing, this is love. You worship love, but it's also the horror is love sometimes. So, I think it's a cool way to end the album. I actually like it. Does it make my top list? No, but it's a decent song. Bill.
I always have a problem with incredibly long songs. I mean, I think that, if you're going to have something that's going to be long, it has to keep your attention. And this one doesn't. Yeah, he's creepy and evil, and he wants you to submit, and it it just takes too long to get there. I mean, I didn't actually track the time on it, but it took forever for the first verse to start. And then it's almost like the interludes between the verses and the choruses are too long. And then going back into the verses is too long. If they would have tightened that up a little bit, it might have been better. It might have knocked it down to 6 minutes or less, and a really decent song. But it really, I had a hard time keeping my attention.
Andy.
To me, like you said, it's almost like the part two of the first song, KFD. It's almost like, okay, the horror is, what was it, the 8 minutes and 24 seconds, and then you had the KFD's 4 minutes and 20 seconds, and he's right. Oh man, I can't make the first title track, and the title track, yeah, it's already 4 minutes and 20 seconds. If I made it another 8 minutes and 24 seconds added onto it, but again, all pigs die. It's a KFD. It just seems to go, it seems like a part two of the first song. But again, his voice, man, Blackie's voice and Chris's guitars, you can tell who they are. It just, they just, like they said in those interviews, they wanted, this was now just not theatrical. They was sick. Blackie was sick of hearing about, we're just a hair band, so a theatrical band. And so they wanted to be the snuff band. Now they called it, and they wanted to basically really open people's eyes up to even more stuff. But part of the problem with that, they lost a lot of fans from this album. Actually, they admitted it afterwards. They lost a lot of fans because it was too deep for a lot of fans to and they said, especially the lady fans, they definitely out the door. They lost a lot of fans because of this album, because it was too much. It was just way, way too much. But I don't know, man. I like it. I like the sound. I love Blackie's voice. I just, it's just very cool. I know it's deep for some people. I don't mind it. Me, again, it keeps all going back to Halloween, horror, movies, whatever. That's what it is for me. So it's the way I look at it,
Yeah, but and you can understand a lot of fans being upset with it, because what do fans really want to hear? I mean, I want to be somebody, upbeat, wild child.
Well, again, I was happy to get lucky. I did see this tour. They did happen to come around the area. I think it was in Boston. I think I saw this one. I'm going between this one and it was either in Boston or the place that went down in Rhode Island. So it was one of the two places, I think, and I think it was in Boston. So it was in Boston. I can't remember, or maybe it was the station in Rhode Island. But I remember walking in, and they had TVs set up, like monitor TVs, like off the stage, but on the sides. And they were playing, all they were doing was playing porn movies. That was basically the stage on the sides. And then they came out and they had, Blackie had his the makeup on and the white and the teardrops and the thing and whatever, and then Chris came out like white as a ghost, and then Mike Duder, and then I forgot who's playing on the drums at the time. I forgot who's playing drums. The big dude. What's his name? Who's the big guy? The real big guy. Most of the time he stood up. Wasn't Frankie.
Steph.
Oh, it was the other. Steph. There you go. Thank you.
Steph Howland.
Steph Howland. So the show was really, really good. But again, like you said, it scared a lot of fans away because of how deep the album was, So I like it. I just wish they had fixed it. Anyways, I don't know. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, so let's talk about the replacement track. I'm not going to call it a bonus track because they deleted two other songs. Well, Fetus and, Little Death off it, and then inserted Tokyo's on Fire. I actually think this is one of the best songs on the album because it's more traditional. It could be a rewritten version of Blind in Texas in some ways, and it rocks the fuck out. Perfect. Bill?
Well, and I'm with you. I had that. It's the best Deep Purple song that Deep Purple's never done because it has a real Speed King and Burn kind of feel to it. And the lyrics are outrageous. The funny thing is they put Tokyo is on Fire on a Japan release, and it's like, that's like I'm coming to burn your house down or something like that. I mean, that just struck me. But yeah, I mean, it's a great song, and it sounds like classic W.A.S.P. And it would have made my top. It would have become a top 4. Instead of a top 3, if I hadn't been considering it a bonus track, because I know Andy was kind of particular about it being a bonus track.
Yeah. And it completely clashes with everything else on the album. Doesn't belong on there at all. Andy?
Yeah, so you just took the words out of my mouth again. The song's okay. It definitely sounds like an earlier W.A.S.P. for sure. It doesn't go with this album for what this album is. That's, again, it just goes back. It sounds older, but doesn't sound like it was done in 97. It sounds like it was done in the earlier years, but it doesn't match this. So, and it's, to me, all these freaking bonus tracks drive me crazy. You know what I mean? All these tracks, man. If you're going to do an album, put them all on, please. Every band should do that. None of this crap where, you get one and they take off this one and put on another one. Come on, give me a break.
Yeah, well, Japan was still -1 if you think they took off 2 songs for whatever reasons. I think we could probably guess what those reasons are for that market. That they replaced it. So, again, it's just here we're taking away 2. Here's 1 extra. And again, I don't think it would work as a bonus track on an international release. Here's an extra song. It's like a clunker at the end. It's just like it's completely different. It's like, whoa, did you put something from the wrong album on here?
Well, they make you just want to buy it. That's all it is, just like every other band does,
Yeah, it should have been the single. Everyone goes out and buys the album, and then you're like, what the?
Well, I guess. No, not really, because Tokyo's on Fire. I just, you know what I mean? It doesn't, I don't know, what would be good for the United States? I don't know. Like I said, it does sound earlier. It doesn't match the album, so it's like, whatever.
That's why he picked Tokyo, because he couldn't narrow down one city in the United States, because every place was on fire anyway.
All right, let's wrap up with favorite tracks from the album. Andy, your top 3.
Oh, I have to do this. I hate when you guys do this. It just bugs me. Depend. You know why? Because I say that because it all depends on the mood.
Yeah.
The mode.
Oh, well, what's your mood today? What are your favorites that we've talked about?
All right. Well. All right. I gotta go with the title. The title track's gonna be one of them because it's the title track and it's all about KFD. And when we're in that mode, that's it. You just want to kill. You just want, and then you want to die. Well, maybe not die. You just don't want to get caught.
or
Right?
else she'll kill you.
Hey, well, no, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Just whatever, you know? Man, I like certain songs for different reasons, too, because of the sounds, how he sings. I don't know. I do like Killer Head. I know you guys are going to be like, I like that whole Killer Head, the guitar work with, you know, I am not like I said, I'm not a guitar player or any of that stuff, but I just like how he says Killer Head, and it just, I don't know, they kind of go back and forth with each other on that, so.
Fair enough.
Of course, man, I kind of mixed up with some of them because it all depends on my mood, you know?
Well,
most of the time, as much I like kill your pretty face, I don't want to kill some chick's face because I'm just not that mad.
Yeah. Are any of us? I certainly hope not. Bill, what are your favorites?
Okay, well, and that's the thing is I've kind of peppered that all the way through, so I can just go in no particular order. Take the Addiction, Wicked Love, and You, and in an honorable mention of Kill Ahead.
Yeah, and for me, I peppered it throughout as well. Take the Addiction, Kill Your Pretty Face, and probably the Horror. You know, if I'm going to stick to 3 and not do the bonus track, because again, I think it's, in terms of a W.A.S.P song, a more traditional and better W.A.S.P song than everything else on the album. But I'm going to not say and put it in my favorites list because it really does clash with the rest of it. So, all right, let's leave that there. On our next episode, our W.A.S.P chat, we're going to skip through to the next studio album, which is, of course, Eldorado. And then we'll go back and we'll talk about the 2 live albums that kind of sandwich that, The Sting and Double Live Assassins. And, of course, Double Live Assassins was the live album recorded off this tour. And, Double Live was actually... that was off the Eldorado tour, and then The Sting was just that fucking internet thing way back when. So, what are your thoughts on... What?
One more mentionable, though, also today, just to let everybody, because they're going to be like, oh, you guys did this today. Actually, today, October 13th, 2005, Babylon was released. So, we're doing a podcast on KFD, but Babylon was released today in 2005. Okay, next.
And I was actually right. Double Live was the live album done off this one. And then Eldorado had The Sting as its live album. But there you go. We'll sandwich both of those live albums together, and they'll go head to head, and we'll see which one wins. But next episode, we'll talk about Eldorado. So for now, what are your thoughts on Kill.Fuck.Die? If you were a longtime fan, what did you think when it came out? If you weren't and have gone and listened to it on YouTube today because we've talked about it, what do you think about it? What are your favorite tracks? And... let's leave that there for now. So from Bill, from Andy, and myself, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Okay, I had one more when it's squeaking.
Squeak it in.
A plug now.
Oh, you have a plug. Plug something.
I am the co-owner and soon to be a DJ on A2ZRadio.net. It's a Live 365 channel. We play a variety of everything, and I do mean everything because I've heard everything from songs from the 50s all the way up to songs that came out last week, and of all genres. So if you like a little bit of flavor, it's the number 2 Z Radio on Live 365.
Real nice. Thanks for sharing that. All right, take care, everyone.
KFD.
Thank you for watching or listening to this episode. Be sure to subscribe to us, like us, or even leave us a review. You can find us and join the conversation on Facebook.